What is up, everybody? Welcome to the MMA Engine making our debut here. I cannot wait for it. And what a not better card than Jorge Masvidal, Colby Covington, going to be taking a deep dive into this main event. As always, I am here with the man behind the stats, Uncle Weezy. Uncle Weezy, how's it feel? A new channel, MMA Engine.
Man, it's got that new channel smell, like Lou Bet you said. And I don't know if that's toxic chemicals or if that's just excitement in the air, but I think it might be a little bit of both. I'm high right now, high on life, high on UFC 272, high on the rivalry between Masvidal and Colby that's going to get settled here on Saturday, high for all the shit talking that's going to happen this week. Everybody's on both sides. They're choosing their sides. We're here to help you today, kind of pick which side you want to be on for this fight, and it's going to be a classic.
Yeah, it's always fun doing these videos, going deep into one fight, and I know you're going to be doing a balls deep on MMA Engine as well tonight as well. But yeah, going into the tail of the tape, the pro experience, the UFC experience, the finish stats, the striking stats, the grappling stats, strength of schedule, the last fight. I mean, it's going to do everything that involves this matchup. I think it's going to be pretty fun. And then on top of that, this fight is phenomenal. I mean, we have the bad blood. I cannot wait for the press conference. I cannot wait for the face-offs. I mean, this fight is phenomenal. Like, honestly, this is like one of the most fights I've been looking forward to in a long time, because I like both these guys a lot. I like Colby a ton. I like Masvidal a ton. One of them's gonna win, so it's gonna be good, Weezy. So I do want to shout out the chat before we get started. If you guys can please leave a like on the video, it does help us out a ton here at MMA Engine. Also hit the subscribe button. We did hit 100 subs, so appreciate that. But we're going to try to keep building the channel. We're going to keep adding on new content week after week. We're going to have shows throughout the week as well. Just a ton of new content. It's going to be fun, and we have some big things coming in the near future as well. So let's shout out the chat before we get started. We have Daz Files, first one in the chat. Let's go. We got the first comment. Appreciate you, Daz. We have Lou Betcha, who is also on the MMA Engine, a very, very smart guy that's kind of doing a ton behind the scenes, and you'll definitely see that in the near future. We have Grateful Dude as well. I'm ready to go deep. I'm ready to go deep as well. We have Eric Betts Fights, another guy in the community that does work, and he does a great job as well. We are here gathered today because our degeneracy knows no bounds exactly, and we wouldn't have it any other way, 100%. Jeffrey, thank you for hanging out, saying the Fiziev fight did fall off. It did. But they were looking to get a replacement for RDA, and hopefully so. And Lou saying, smash the like and subscribe, please. And I totally agree with that. So, Weezy, I say we get right into it and let us start with the tail of the tape. We have Colby Covington, who is 34 years old, 5'11", with a 72-inch reach, going against Jorge Masvidal, who is 37 years old, 5'11", with a 74-inch reach. We'll take a look at their last 5 fights. We have Colby Covington, who is 3-2 in his last 5 fights, a decision win against RDA, a decision win against Robbie Lawler, a knockout loss to Kamaru Usman in the 5th round, a knockout win against Tyron Woodley, I believe in the 5th round, a decision loss against Kamaru Usman. And as far as Jorge Masvidal, 3-2 in his last 5 fights as well, he has a knockout win against Darren Till, a knockout win against Ben Askren, a knockout win against Nate Diaz, a decision loss against Kamaru Usman, and then a knockout loss against Kamaru Usman as well. So both these guys are 3-2 in their last 5 fights, and both these guys' last 2 losses do come from Kamaru Usman. No shame in either of those. But Weezy, let's start with the experience stats here for you.
Yeah, we got obviously a big-time experience advantage here for Jorge Masvidal here, as he has 50 professional fights, man. Has this guy been around the block or not? I mean, we can even go back to remembering this dude fighting in dudes' backyards as the undercard for Kimbo Slice in somebody's yard in Miami. So this guy has been around forever. He's one of the OGs. 50 fights, 577 minutes in the pro cage. That's not, that's not including any of the yard fights. You know what I'm saying? This is just with the cage. 18 years and 9 months in the mixed martial arts game for Jorge Masvidal here. We're talking about a guy who's been doing this for half of his life at this point. We got Colby Covington, 19 professional fights, 264 minutes in the cage, and his career is 10 years old 2 days ago. So happy 10-year birthday to Colby Covington's career, and that took place on Sunday. And then we look at the UFC experience, and Masvidal's got an advantage there, having 6 more UFC fights, having about 30 more minutes in the UFC cage. So when we look at the experience numbers, it's Masvidal all day. But, when we get to the point where you're a 37-year-old welterweight, the problem becomes how much is left in the tank. Is that 577 minutes and 50 fights an advantage or a disadvantage? Because we always have to look at the point when there is too much tread on the tires. And Jorge is approaching that spot here. But if he didn't look good in his last two fights, we can maybe forgive that a little bit, seeing it's against one of the best of all time in Kamaru Usman. When we look at the finish stats, Brady, it's going to be Masvidal who's the better finisher and who's also more durable here. He's got a 57% finish rate, does Jorge Masvidal, as a pro, while Colby Covington's is 50%. And we see Masvidal's finishing 58% of his UFC wins, while Colby Covington finishes 45% of his UFC wins. And then when we look at how these guys get finished, Jorge has never been finished he's been finished once in the UFC, and he has been finished, it looks like, it would be 26%. So, yeah, that would be 4 times as a professional in 15 losses. And Colby Covington's been finished 2 times as a professional in 3 pro losses. So, yeah, Masvidal, the slightly better finisher. Colby Covington, the more diverse finisher, having half of his finishes by submission, half by knockout as a pro. And then, Colby's been finished in 2 of his 3 losses, while, Masvidal's been a lot more durable than that. Only been finished in 1 of 8 UFC losses and in 4 of 15 total losses. So, yeah, Masvidal is going to have a 2-inch reach advantage here, and he's going to have an experience advantage, a UFC experience advantage, and he's a little bit better finisher and more durable as well.
Yeah, I remember having I had like a 3-4-5 decision bet, something like that, or like a 4-5 decision bet with Kamaru Usman, knowing that Masvidal never had been knocked out in the UFC. And then Kamaru Usman just like flatlines the dude, and that shocked me. And what else shocked me was I didn't realize Jorge Masvidal is 37. I could have swore he was like 35, but yeah, he's 37. He's been fighting for a long time, almost 19 years. So, when are we going to start seeing Jorge Masvidal on that decline? Whereas Colby, he's 34 years old, still in his prime, had a very competitive fight with Kamaru Usman last time out. As far as this fight in terms of finishing, I think if Masvidal wins this fight, it's going to be by knockout. I really struggle to see Masvidal winning really many minutes at all in this fight. I think he's going to have to knock out Colby Covington. With Colby, I'm kind of thinking more so a decision or a late finish, but we'll talk about the striking stats to start, because I feel like although Colby's game plan is probably going to come in here, go for takedowns quite a bit, I do think we will see a good amount of striking in this fight.
Colby's fights on the aggregate have taken place at striking range for actually more than half of his UFC career of 223 minutes of cage time. So, yeah, we're going to see some boxing here, obviously. We have seen a lot of Colby Covington fights, Brady, where, that bell rings and he's shooting that first takedown in the first 5 seconds. And I wouldn't be surprised if that happened, but he doesn't do it every round, and he does have faith in his striking. Let's face it, man. He won a lot of minutes striking against Kamaru Usman, and that's a tough task to do. So both of these guys are very good strikers, but, we've got big sample sizes from both of them again, and that's the great thing about these main events. As we get that sample size is bigger and bigger, and that sample size is mostly against top-level competition, the numbers very rarely lie at that point. We can take a lot more faith in the numbers when we have a huge sample size. And what that's telling us right here is that the metrics are better for Jorge pretty much everywhere. However, not that much better, right? So we see Colby Covington lands 4.14. He absorbs 3.09. Masvidal is landing 4.2 and absorbing 3.02. So he lands just a little bit more per minute than Colby. He absorbs just a little bit less per minute than Colby. Jorge's got a 50% striking accuracy, while Colby's at 38%. So significantly more accurate is Jorge Masvidal in the striking exchanges. Significantly more powerful is Jorge Masvidal in the striking exchanges, as he has landed 9 knockdowns in 20 UFC fights. 9 knockdowns in 20 UFC fights. That's a lot of knockdowns. And Colby Covington has landed, it looks like 1 knockdown in 924 significant strikes in 14 UFC fights. So Masvidal is more powerful. Masvidal has been knocked down more than Colby Covington has, though. And but other than that, Masvidal's metrics are just a little bit better everywhere in the striking ratios, in the defensive numbers, in the power numbers. The only thing that Colby's just a little bit better at is being just a little bit less chinny and being a little more active. See, we see Colby Covington throwing 10.77 significant strikes a minute, and his opponent's only throwing 7. So he's throwing 1.5 significant strike attempts for every one that his opponents throw. And Masvidal outvolumes his opponents as well, throwing 8.41, while his opponents throw 7.17, but not at the ratio that Colby brings. So Colby, the advantages are just a little bit less chinny, a lot more volume, but Masvidal is more accurate, more powerful, more efficient, and probably the better technical striker too. We talked about this briefly, though. When you look at the tail of the tape for Colby Covington, it shows him as an orthodox stance fighter. He has not been fighting orthodox for a very long time. I can't even remember the last fight that I saw him fight in the orthodox stance. He fought southpaw both times against Usman. He fought southpaw against Lawler. He fought southpaw against Dos Anjos, against Maya, against Max Griffin. So Colby Covington is going to come out here probably in the southpaw stance. Masvidal will be switching stances a little bit. But if he does fight mostly orthodox, Colby will be taking away that jab and will be watching mostly for that lead left hook of Masvidal that he used to knock out Darren Till from the southpaw stance. And he'll be looking for those big right leg kicks and straight rights down the middle. So, yeah, if this were a standing fight for 25 minutes, I think Jorge Masvidal would absolutely be a good size favorite here. But that's not how this is going to work.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I hope people don't think that, since Colby did not take down Kamaru Usman in their fight, which he did attempt, I think, like 8 takedowns in their last fight, got 0 officially. And then just because he attempted 0 in their first fight and got 0, hopefully people don't think that Colby's going to come out here and fight 25 minutes with Masvidal on the feet, because that's just not going to happen. I mean, Colby's not a dumb fighter. This guy is very smart. And what I like about Colby Covington is, like you said, when he starts to fight, he's going to be in your face right away. He's going to pressure, especially in this fight here. He's not going to want to stand that range long with Jorge Masvidal, regardless of, how much they supposedly hate each other. He's going to come in here with a smart game plan. He's going to push Masvidal against the cage right away, and he's going to try to take him down. What I did notice in a lot of Colby Covington fights was he seems to, go out there and try to look for those takedowns very early. He looks to set a pace very early that a lot of guys can't keep up, which is very smart because, as we know, that's going to slow the other guy down. There's going to be a lot less pop on their punches as well. And I think he's going to do that here. I think he's going to come out here, shoot takedowns instantly, hold Masvidal against the cage, make him work, take him down. If Masvidal gets back up, which I think he will, take him right back down, rinse and repeat for 15 or so minutes. And then I think that's when Colby's going to be more comfortable in terms of striking with a more tired Masvidal, a less harder hitting Masvidal as well. And I think he's going to continue that pace for 25 minutes. That's what he does. So I guess the biggest thing here is going to be those grappling stats, because we know on the feet, Masvidal is, the better striker. But I think at least early on, we're going to see a lot of that grappling from Colby Covington. So in terms of the grappling stats, Weezy, is there anything that really sticks out besides Colby attempting 131 takedowns?
Yeah, I mean, obviously that absolutely sticks out, but the thing here is we can't talk about Colby Covington's strong points without talking about Jorge Masvidal and what he's done well in the grappling as well. Look, 32 takedown attempts for Masvidal in 20 fights. So he's not a much of a active wrestler here, but he's faced 101 takedown attempts in his 20 UFC fights. So he's used to wrestling heavy game plans. He's seen that before. And when I look at efficiency, I kind of look at how many takedown attempts one guy has in comparison to how many he's had attempted against him, how many takedowns he's gotten compared to how many his opponents have gotten, and then look at the control time. Is the number in balance with that ratio? And it's not. And when it's not, you can tell whether somebody's efficient or inefficient in the grappling exchanges. And I would rate Masvidal as being pretty efficient here. You're talking about a 73% takedown defense over a 20-fight sample size, 101 takedown attempts. So he's stopping a lot of takedowns. He's been controlled about 50 minutes on the 27 takedowns that he's allowed. And we look at somebody like Colby Covington, 61 takedowns. He's got 45% control time over 223 minutes. So that would be like, I'd say about 100 minutes of control time on 61 takedowns. So about 1.66 minutes of control time per takedown. So Covington will be able to win minutes on the ground. Masvidal will be able to lose minutes on the ground, but he's not going to make it easy for Colby. It's not like Colby's going to come in here and pull a Damian Maia, where you get that first single leg, you take the guy down, and then you're just on top of him until the bell rings. And then it happens again, and then it happens again. Colby, he chain wrestles, and people get back up, and then he takes you down again. So, when we see somebody like Colby over the sample size that we have of 14 fights, and in 14 fights, he's attempted 131 takedowns. That tells you that he's averaging more than 9 takedown attempts per fight over a huge sample size. So we can never question Colby's commitment to the wrestling, because it's going to be there. It'll be there for the full 25 minutes if need be. So Colby Covington's best assets always have been his conditioning, his pace, his volume, and his wrestling, and his ability to be able to choose where the fight takes place, because he's been in situations in the past, Brady, where he didn't want to wrestle. When he fought Damian Maia, he made that a striking match, and he showed 100% takedown defense in that fight. So Colby, his best weapon is choosing where the fight takes place. And when we know that that's his best weapon, and we know that he dominates in the wrestling exchanges, and Jorge Masvidal has given up a lot of those minutes in the wrestling exchanges over a big sample size, we know what Colby's going to do here. It'll be the least surprising game plan of all time.
Yeah, Masvidal is definitely going to be prepared for it, but can he stop it? And like I said, it's not going to be easy. I hope people don't think that Colby's going to come in here, one takedown and the round's over. It's not going to be like that at all, because I don't think Colby has like the best top control, and Jorge does have a very good get-up game, especially when he's against the fence. I think if Colby takes down Jorge Masvidal like in the center of the cage, maybe he could hold him down a little bit, but I think if Colby takes him down, he's just going to get up, you take him down again, rinse and repeat, hold him against the cage. I kind of think it'll look a little bit like the Masvidal fight with Kamaru Usman, the first one, where first of all, Masvidal did come in on short notice, but I kind of think it's going to look like that. Kamaru Usman was able to take down Masvidal 5 times in that fight. He was 5 for 16 with a 31% takedown accuracy, which is not the best. And Masvidal did a great job, especially on short notice. But what Usman did, he was able to, although he wasn't able to take him down as much as he'd probably like, he was able to just hold him against the cage, just make him work. And I think Colby's going to do the exact same thing. I think, Colby's going to come here that exact same game plan. As soon as the fight starts, push Masvidal against the cage, take him down, rinse and repeat, make him work, hold him against the cage. I think it's going to be a very frustrating fight to watch if you are a Masvidal fan or not Masvidal bettor. If you're a Colby bettor, you're probably going to enjoy the fight, and if you're Masvidal, you're probably going to be very frustrated because he's not going to get the fight he wants. The fight he'd like would probably be like, standing at range with Colby for 25 minutes and trading hard shots. But as we know, Colby's going to fight smart. He's going to come in there with a good game plan. And it's a tough fight for Masvidal just because of that.
Yeah, I mean, he's a tough fight for anybody as Colby Covington, because somebody's good at what they do when the game plan walking into the cage and you still can't stop it. And it's not like Colby's shocking anybody. Who saw Colby shooting a takedown 5 minutes into or 5 seconds into this? Everybody knows it's coming. And I think those are the most frustrating fighters when you're not a fan of them to watch. Like if you're a Conor fan and you're waiting for that Nurmagomedov fight, and you're just saying, you keep telling your buddies, well, I'm telling you, man, if Khabib can't take him down, he's in trouble. Well, it turns out Conor knew that Khabib was going to try to take him down, and Khabib tried to take him down and just kept going to it over and over and over again until he broke him. That's how it works. That's how Khabib did it. That's how GSP did it. That's how Colby does it. That's how Damian Maia won a ton of fights. There's a lot of guys, in Johnny Hendricks. There's a lot of guys in the UFC that got to the highest level with completely predictable game plans, but the ability to execute those game plans and have the conditioning to push a pace for the full fight. And that's what he does. And here's the other thing too. when we know that Jorge is the most dangerous early in fights, if we look at the finishes, Brady, we'd have to go back to the Eric Reynolds win in Bellator back in 2009 when Masvidal got a finish in the third round. After that fight, we got a second round finish against Satoru Kitaoka. We've got a second round finish against Chiesa by Darce choke. We've got a first round finish against Cesar Ferreira, a first round finish against Ellenberger, 1 minute into the second round against Cerrone, 3 minutes into the second round against Till, 5 seconds into the first round against Askren, and then he got the cut stoppage against Nate Diaz at the end of the third round. You just kind of have to wait out the first 2 rounds if you want to beat Masvidal. That's when he's got his power. That's when he's the most dangerous. And Colby's exactly the kind of fighter who can just say, all right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to wrestle the shit out of him for the first 10 minutes of this fight. I'm going to take all this thing off his punches. I'm going to make his arms fill up with blood. I've done this before. I'm going to do it again. And there's really not much he can do to stop it. You listen to the interviews. These guys used to train together. These guys used to live together. Jorge worked with Colby so he could get his wrestling better. Never at any point in either of these two guys' lives has Jorge's wrestling been anywhere near Colby's. And they will both die with Colby's wrestling being better than Jorge's, unless like Colby blows out his knee when he's like 70 on the golf course, and then he finds Jorge somewhere down there in South Florida and they go at it, and Colby's on one leg and he just can't shoot the takedowns anymore. Maybe then he loses, but he'll always be the better wrestler here. We've seen him do it over and over again against the division's best fighters. And I think he just has to execute that game plan for a good 2 rounds before he makes Masvidal a much less dangerous version of himself.
Yeah, and we'll talk about the odds, but I do see why they are wide. Like, if we're talking about this fight and we're saying that Masvidal's path to victory is going to be a knockout in the first or second round, Colby's not going to give him a lot of opportunities. He's going to be on him. He's going to be stuck to him like glue the entire first and second round, maybe third round as well. He's just not going to have opportunities to knock out Colby Covington often. I don't expect Colby to come in here with some weird game plan, striking with Masvidal for 25 minutes. I expect him to fight smart because he's a very smart fighter. So, we'll talk about the strength of schedule a little bit. Was there anything that stuck out to you in terms of the strength of schedule?
Yeah, let's break down these numbers. So, when you look at it, the 2.28 ratio in comparison to 1.87 for Masvidal, right? That looks like, oh man, that's way better for Colby. Both these guys are fighting studs. And Masvidal's experienced level of his competition is actually a little bit higher at 15.8 total fights to Colby Covington's 14.07. So the average record of a Jorge Masvidal opponent in the UFC over a 20-fight sample size has 10.3 wins and 5.5 losses. So he's fighting the best competition that the UFC has to offer. And it's the same thing for Colby, with 9.79 wins and 4.29 losses being the average record of one of his opponents. And then we look at the wins. Just a little bit better for Colby as well. 1.85 ratio to 1.51. The average record, 9.27 and 5 for a guy that Colby Covington beats. The average record for a win for Jorge Masvidal opponent, 9.67 wins, 6.42 losses. And because Colby Covington has 2 losses to Usman, who's undefeated, and 1 to Warlley Alves, the ratio is 7-1 of wins to losses of the people that have beaten him, because he's really only lost twice to Usman, and then he came in with a broken rib, I guess, against Warlley Alves on less than a week's notice, and he took his check and went home after he went into that guillotine. So, it's been a minute since anybody not named Kamaru Usman has beaten either of these guys. It's going to be a great fight, but when we look at the strength of schedule, we see an advantage here for Colby, but it doesn't really mean much. Both of these guys are fighting nothing but the best competition.
Yeah, they both fought some very, very good guys. Jorge Masvidal, 20 UFC fights. Colby Covington, 14. A lot of great opponents mixed in there. Jack Attack MMA, what is up, Jack Attack? Saying Colby looked more poised and calculated last time out than he ever has. Notable improvements even with the loss. Yeah, I thought he looked really good, performed really well in that fight. I believe Usman was like a huge favorite, right? Like minus 300, but that fight was, pretty close.
That fight was close. I feel like if that wasn't a championship fight, you could make an argument that Colby won it. But in a championship fight, you can't just like barely win 3 rounds. You have to beat the champion to be the champion,
Yeah.
and it's not good enough to win by a hair. So, like I could see that fight being scored for Colby. I scored it for Usman, even though I'm a big Colby fan. But yeah, Usman absolutely deserved to win that second fight. And he looked great in the first one too. Got that knockout in the 5th round. But these fights were a lot closer than the Masvidal Usman fights.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So that's them. That's each one of these guys fighting the best that the division has to offer right now. And we did see Colby really fight at a higher level. And I'm telling you, man, rounds 3, 4, and 5 of Usman 2 were so good. It was they were so well matched. If Colby gets this win, I think maybe one more win. I want to see the trilogy if he gets this win, man, because that's such a compelling fight, such a great rivalry, and they are the 2 best welterweights in this division right now. And Jorge can take that crown back from Colby of being that next guy to face Kamaru if he gets this win, if he starches Colby, if he finds a way to get around that wrestling heavy game plan of Colby Covington. It's going to be a tall order, but boy, this is a fantastic main event. It's got everything that you could possibly want.
It's amazing. I'm looking forward to the press conference for sure. I'm sure that's going to be really fun. But let's take a look at these odds and see if any of these props stick out. So first, I do want to get your thoughts on the line, because I see a lot of people saying, the line is just right. I see a lot of people saying the line's, not wide enough, and I see a lot of people saying that the line is way too wide here. So I'm curious to get your thoughts on it. We have Colby Covington, who opened up -300. He went down to -350 for a couple weeks, and he is currently sitting at -315. Jorge Masvidal opened up +250, went to +285 for a few weeks, and he's currently sitting at +265. So I'll give you my thoughts on the line first, and then you can say what you want. But for me, I think the line is about right, or honestly, I think it could be even wider, because we talked about the fight, and if Masvidal wins this fight, I think it's going to have to be an early knockout, and I just don't see Colby Covington going out there and striking with Masvidal for long periods of time, at least early on. And again, we talked about how Masvidal, when he does win by knockout, it's typically early on. And you go back and look through Masvidal's career, there's a lot of decisions there. It's like, feels like just recently he's going out there with like improved power or something, knocking out Till and Askren and guys like that. But I just don't feel like Colby Covington's going to give him many opportunities to knock him out here. I think Colby's going to implement his will early and often. And I just think as the fight goes on, I mean, Colby's just going to, continually get better, where I can see Jorge Masvidal, slowing down as the fight goes on. Not many people, if any, Kamaru Usman, one of them, can keep up with Colby's pace for 25 minutes. I'm not sure Masvidal will be able to. So I think the line is either about right or could be a little bit wider. What do you think of the line -315 for Colby and Jorge Masvidal +265?
Well, I think as I'm learning this game more and more, as I'm in the pool neck deep. I'm doing content every week. I watch a ton of tape every single week, and I feel like I'm getting better at this. But as I get better at this, one of the things that I always try to tell myself when I'm capping a fight is, that I could absolutely be wrong, and to never, fail to admit when somebody's got advantages in certain categories here. So let's say you're on the Masvidal side and you're looking for some value in that plus number. There's a lot of things to hang your hat on, man. He's more experienced. He's got a 2-inch reach advantage, and he's the better striker. And you say he's the better power guy. He's less chinny. He's more accurate. He's got more sting on his punches. He's probably going to be landing the bigger shots here. And half of Colby Covington's fights stay standing. So, if you're on that Masvidal side and you're saying, hey, the strength of schedule is close, but Masvidal is a better finisher. He's got more power. He's the better striker. And you might even be able to talk yourself into, and there's nothing wrong with this, saying Masvidal is a better striker as much as Covington is the better grappler here. And then which guy gets their way? Because, we know that Masvidal's got pretty good takedown defense on the fence. That's been something that he's improved quite a bit. So there's good reasons to like both sides. And consequently, if you're on the Covington side, and I am, that wrestling game and that conditioning and that pace and that volume is something that you simply can't ignore. You have to admit to yourself, if you're on that Masvidal side, that you might not get 2.5 rounds of this fight being at striking range. It might only be 1 round. And that round might be late in the fight when Masvidal's exhausted and his arms are filled up with blood after defending 25 takedown attempts from Chaos. So I'm on Covington. I'm a little uncomfortable laying -300, so I think I'm going to stay away here because there's an experience advantage for Masvidal. There's a length advantage for Masvidal. There's a striking advantage for Masvidal here. And these guys have trained together, and he knows what Colby does. So potentially he could have a game plan that could frustrate Colby here if he's in shape, if he's been training hard, if he's ready. Which one of these guys really wants to kick ass on Saturday? That's what we're going to find out. But my bet is that Colby will be conditioned. He will be ready. I'm not exactly sure about Jorge at this point.
Yeah, sounds good. And Jack said those were some great arguments for the plus money ticket. Yeah, I do agree there. Daz saying Colby inside the distance plus 210, decision -112. We'll get to those now. So yeah, I'm not touching the money line of Colby. If it comes down to like -250, like I wouldn't hate a shot at him there. I don't hate him as a parlay piece as well. I'm not doing a parlay this week, but if I was doing a parlay, I wouldn't hate him there. But I will see where that line goes throughout the week. They have the over under. It looks like it's set at 4.5 across the majority of the books. The over 4.5 is -152. The under 4.5 is +122. So it is juiced to the over, which does make sense. I think if Colby does win, it's more than likely going to be a decision or like a very late finish there. The fight goes to decision, -135. The fight doesn't go to decision, is +105. Any thoughts on these time props, Weezy?
Yeah, it's hard to say. I would lean towards the over here. Jorge is a guy that's extremely difficult to finish, and Colby Covington is finishing at less than a 50% rate as a UFC fighter here. He's finished, I believe, 5 of 11 wins inside the distance, 3 by knockout, 2 by submission. So I would think that this does go the full 5 here due to the durability of Masvidal and due to the game plan of Colby Covington. So for me, I think one of the bets that I'm going to be looking at, do we have a line on that 4-5 decision for Colby Covington yet? Or has FanDuel dropped that?
Yeah, I saw it on FanDuel at -155 yesterday.
See, that's, when you're talking about -260 and then you get it down to -155, it put, I feel a lot better betting 1.55 units to win one rather than 2.6 units to win one, when I know that there's a very low likelihood that Colby Covington is finishing Jorge Masvidal in the first 3 rounds of this fight. In order for that to happen, Brady, it would kind of feel like Jorge would have had to be fully checked out.
Yeah, and it is indeed -155. So yeah, I don't hate that. I mean, like you said, it's better than laying that like -315 at the moment. So yeah, I don't hate that.
Yeah, see, that's really compelling, and that's what I've been doing lately, is trying to get the best win condition of the fighter. And when you're confident in a fighter, try to find ways to save money on them without giving up a big part of their win condition here. And seeing Colby Covington get a first round knockout or a first round or a second round sub, that's not something that I'm seeing happen too many times. And if I can get that price reduction from -300 down to -155, it feels like the way to play this.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it. Paul, wow, finally found the channel. Thank you for finding us. Make sure you subscribe so you don't have that problem again. Appreciate hanging out, Paul. Always been a supporter of me and Wheezy. But let's look at some more lines because there's a lot of props out already, 94 of them to be exact. So we'll take a look at some of these finished props. Colby Covington to win by KO +300. Masvidal to win by KO is +400, which I think is interesting if you like Masvidal. His money line is +265 around there. The KO prop at +400. I think that's his win condition there. We see that Covington submission +900, Masvidal submission +2,000, Covington by decision, which I think is probably the most likely scenario in this fight, is -110. Masvidal by decision is +750, and it is +1100 on FanDuel. Any of those stick out for me? I think it'd probably be the Masvidal KO if I was to be on the Masvidal side. I think that's what I'd look at.
What looks fat to me is Covington by submission at +1,000. Colby has been bragging about his BJJ game ever since he left ATT, working over there with Cesar Carnero over at MMA Masters. He's been talking it up, man. And the one thing I've found about Colby when he talks about how he's going to fight, Colby's not the kind of guy who goes out there and blows smoke about his game plan. When he talked about this fight a long time ago, saying that he wanted this fight, he said, look, the Masvidal fight's an easy fight for me. I'm going to go into the center of the cage. I'm going to take this guy down. I'm going to give him a wedgie, and then I'm going to ride him for the full 5 rounds until he starts crying. That's basically what he said. And I could see him potentially getting a rear naked choke here if he wears down. So at plus 1,000, you only got to risk 1/10 of a unit to win one. It's something that I could see happening, and it fits into the game plan that Colby brings. If Jorge is even just a little bit checked out, man, he could get a submission in the 3rd, 4th, or 5th round here after just exhausting him and wearing him down. So that actually jumps out a little bit. I mean, you can't take it too seriously at plus 1,000. But yeah, Colby 4-5 decision would be the way that I would play this. Colby by decision is what? What just
minus 110. Minus 110.
Yeah, I can't do that.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't do that, man. That's no. Yeah, it would be the minus 155 would be the way that I would play it. Get that 4th, 5th, and the decision prop in there. And Masvidal by KO at plus 400, I feel that's his best win condition here. It's going to be hard for him to win enough minutes in this fight to win 3 rounds.
Yeah, exactly. That submission prop's interesting because Colby has finished 38% of his wins by submission. And I did notice in some fights, especially the Lawler fight, he kept going for chokes as well. So if he does tire out Masvidal, maybe like a late submission, that's pretty sneaky at plus 1,000. Let's get a little crazy here. So we have Colby Covington to win in round 4 plus 1,800. Colby Covington to win in round 5 plus 2,500. Covington to win in round 3 plus 1,200. Masvidal to win in round 1 plus 1,200. Masvidal to win in round 2 is plus 1,400. I think those are probably his 2 paths to victory there as well for Masvidal.
Yeah, that's pretty fat because that's how we talked about that. It's been since 2009 that he got a stoppage that didn't come from a doctor. And I mean, we were saying before the show, I mean, you could look at Nate Diaz and he's bleeding. He takes a lukewarm shower and he's like just gushing blood. So, that was the last time that he, if you go back before the Nate Diaz fight, that he got a finish in round 3. So, if Masvidal gets it done, it's because he's stopping takedowns and he lands a big shot. So at plus 1,400 for the round 2 and plus 1,200 on FanDuel for round 1, I think.
It's decent. Yeah.
Plus 1,000 or plus 1,200, I'm sorry, on Bet Online for round 1, and then plus 1,400 on Bet Online for round 2. Yeah, that's interesting, man.
You want to hear what else is interesting, Wheezy? I feel like this is like
his round 5 submission special.
This on FanDuel Sportsbook, they have Colby Covington round 4 submission plus 5,000. Colby Covington round 5 submission plus 5,000.
Ooh,
let's go.
Now that's fat. That's when when you're holding that ticket and then the fight gets into the 4th and your boy gets the takedown. It's almost like you already won, because you're like, it was a chance. I bet a 5,000 thing, and I had a chance. It's so rare that you're going to hit something that wide, but I could see that happening, man. Especially if Colby is is the same Colby that we always know and love. You know how dangerous he is in the 4th and the 5th. I mean, he was putting it on Usman in the 4th and the 5th, and Usman's a guy that has unquestionable cardio. Masvidal, not unquestionable cardio, especially in comparison to Mr. Colby Covington.
Yeah, I think that's sneaky. That is sneaky for sure. But yeah, I think we can about wrap it up. It went 40 minutes. I mean, this fight's so good. We could talk about it all day, but I'm assuming you have some stuff to do. But I guess final thoughts for me, and then we'll give our favorite bet as well. For me, final thoughts. I do like Colby Covington here. I'm not going to touch the money line. I'm not going to parlay it, although I do think it's a solid parlay piece. I will wait and see where the line does come down at, though. Because maybe if it gets like minus 250 Colby for some reason, if he wanted to hedge it a little bit, the Masvidal round 1 or round 2 KO are pretty juicy there. But I think Colby's going to implement his game plan early and often. I think he's going to have success in doing it. I think he probably wins by decision, but maybe take a couple shots on those crazy submission props. But yeah, give me Colby decision. And my favorite bet would be that 4 or 5 decision, taking a minus 300 favorite and turning him to a minus 155 favorite. I think that's probably the best way to go by a mile. Weezy, what are your final thoughts on this fight? And then also, what is your favorite bet for it?
Yeah, I'm thinking Colby Covington by decision. The favorite bet is I want to leave that door open for a 4th or a 5th round finish because of that pace and that pressure and that wrestling that Colby brings, that he's so good at bringing. Plus, I want to leave the door open for a finish for both of these guys because it's like one of those fights, man. These guys, I mean, some people seem to believe that this is all manufactured, and that's fine. It certainly could be. I mean, Colby absolutely manufactured this personality that he's been giving us now since the Maia fight on purpose because he was going to be cut from the UFC because people thought he was boring. So he stopped being boring, and nobody can accuse Colby of being boring now. He's the least boring guy in MMA. He gets people fired up just by sending out a tweet. So it's a great fight, man. These guys, I really do think that they hate each other, and if they don't, they fool me. But it's going to be a great fight, a grudge match. I could see a late finish in this fight, but I'm picking Colby Covington to win by decision. And the bet that I'm taking a long look at is Colby round 4-5 or decision minus 155 on FanDuel.
Yeah, what I also like to do is I remember with Holloway, he fought Yair Rodriguez. They had the 4-5 decision. I got it around like minus 125, something like that. But regardless, what I did was I actually added the 3rd round as well. I sprinkled that so I could have Colby to win in rounds 3, 4, 5, or decision just to get that extra round. And I feel, a lot better about that. So what is Colby to win in round 3? I might play that minus 155 and then add the round 3 just
plus
to feel a little more.
1,600 on FanDuel.
Woo! See, I feel good about it.
So there you go. That's another way. You add 1/10 of a unit to that bet, and you can cover your exposure to the minus 155.
Yeah,
it's not bad.
I like that. I like that look. I really do. But yeah, I mean,
that's the way I would play it too.
Oh yeah, this was a great debut, a great fight, a great card. Hoping RDA gets a replacement. I'm looking forward to that as well. But thank you all for hanging out on the debut for me and Weezy here. Look forward to more content on the channel. Uncle Weezy is going to be live tonight. Uncle Weezy, how about you tell him about what you're doing tonight and throughout the week? And let them know where they can follow you on Twitter and all that good stuff as well.
Yeah, if you guys in the chat have any particular fight besides the main event you'd like to hear a balls deep breakdown on, just let me know in the chat right now or hit me up on Twitter because I haven't even decided which balls deep breakdown I'm going to do tonight. But we'll do it at 10 o'clock Central Time here on the MMA Engine channel. And I'll also be going live on my channel tomorrow night, Tuesday night, the usual time, 10 o'clock Central Time for the full card UFC 272 breakdown, just a tip. And I'll be back on Pub Sports on Wednesday again for the DFS show with you and Luke and Monk. And can't wait to give you guys a whole bunch of content on this new MMA Engine channel. We're going to be going deep, you guys. We're going to be providing you guys with the best in MMA content for the DFS player and for the gambler. We all work hard over here, and we're going to give you the best that we can. But, Turner Malarkey. See, now Paul and Jack Attack are talking my language here, man. That would be a good one. And Barbosa Mitchell is another good one. Yeah. I might do Mitchell Barbosa on my channel on Wednesday, but I think tonight maybe we'll do that Jalen Turner Malarkey fight. I've got a bet on it, but I also know why people like Malarkey here, and I promise not to be too much of a fanboy or too biased towards my guy Turner here, who I have a bet on. But I think that's a great fight, very compelling matchup. That'd be a good one to do.
Yeah, that'll be fun for sure. But if you all can leave a like on the video, subscribe here to the MMA Engine. Also follow the socials, MMA_Engine on Twitter. Same thing for Instagram, MMA_Engine. Be sure to look out for more content throughout the week. I'll be dropping some videos on the channel as well, so look out for those. You can follow me on Twitter, DFS_numbers. Instagram is DFS by the numbers. YouTube, DFS by the numbers. My full card breakdown prediction video just dropped as well. So yeah, guys, that's about it. We'll talk to you soon, and good luck for UFC 272. It should be a banger of a card. Thank you for hanging out.